Hey, welcome here guys, and today's video is going to be about solo leveling in Rise. This is going to be a huge one, especially for the new players, but I also think that some veteran players will be able to find something new and interesting, because we're going to talk about artifacts, stats in a little bit of details and deeper analysis, and also total power. But before we're going to start, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm on my way to 500 subscribers, and as soon as I reach this goal, I'm going to apply for Netmarble Content Creator Program. This way, I will be able to provide you some codes, and this is going to be the best way for me to say thank you for all of your support. Now, let's go back to the main topic of this video, and I would like to start with total power. Why is it so important? Let's be honest. This is the main parameter which shows you if you are able to beat a certain content. Here we are talking about higher level content such as WOBL, such as new simulation gates mode, instance dungeons, and encore missions, proof of the strong level 15 and higher, I would say. If you're below a certain amount of total power, you will struggle. Despite the fact if you're going to be a highly skilled player, it doesn't really matter on a certain level of total power. Especially if you're in a red total power zone, this becomes really hard. Why? Every parameter, every stat is going to reduce when you below required amount of total power. Your damage output is going to be reduced, your stats are going to be reduced, and your break effectiveness as well is going to be reduced. So with that, of course, we should to keep in mind that the upcoming content is going to be a JEJU island, our lovely boy Beru for sure, and we actually expect some really high tier, high level content, which is going to require a large amount of total power. So the best way to prepare for this content is to improve your score of total power. Literally in this game, this parameter is affected by everything. We're talking, of course, about enhancements, advancements of your hunters, weapons, level of your weapons, gems, level of your hunters, and of course, artifacts. Of course, as well. But yeah, artifacts is going to be the main topic of this video, so we're going to discuss it in a little bit more details. Just to keep in mind, and this is really easy, what we're going to talk here is going to be level 78 artifacts. They're going to provide you the most amount of total power, especially if you're collecting a full set. Let's go to the tab of our artifacts, and let me start with the burning curse. So this one is really easy. You're going to use this set for your DPS hunters. The other one, which we should mention, is going to be a grid set. This one you're going to use for your breakers. And the last one is going to be Burning Blessing, which you're going to use for your support units. Pretty clear, obvious, that's right. Why these artifacts as well? They're not the highest in terms of level, but also they consist in total of 8 pieces. So when you have 8 pieces of a certain set, this provides you the most amount of total power. In compared to half sets, 4 pieces, 2 pieces, so you get the idea. If you're lacking of total power, especially if the battle is going to be with Sanjinu, your main character, you can equip your hunters just with the best artifacts which you have. This is the one trick to boost your total power to beat a certain content. So what else should you keep in mind? And this one is actually an interesting. Let me show you something real quick. And here I'm talking actually about some specific stats for your hunters. It's a little bit tricky. I mean, which stat, which parameter is going to affect total power the most? Well, Actually, the answer is obvious. Each hunter have some kind of stat, some kind of parameter which she scales off. This one is going to be the main one which is going to provide you, let's say, not the most, but one of the biggest amount of total power. Let me show you a real simple example which I found out in terms of weapons, personal weapons for SR hunters. Why them? They are actually providing certain amount of additional stat which is like the main for your hunter. Let me show you something real quick. So here, Thomas Andre, he has like defense as the main parameter. I also have weapon from Gagan He, which has also defense parameter, and I have Charlotte's weapon with also defense parameter. They are all similar. As you can see, they are all three of them at level 100. They are at A10 advancements. And okay, you may think, probably for Thomas Andre, his personal weapon is going to provide the most amount of total power. Let's see. 45,000, almost 46. Now let's equip, for example, Charlotte's weapon. Nothing changed. Now from Gogan He, nothing changed as well. Let me show you something other. So here's the weapon from Mireille. Her main stat is going to be attack. Now let's put her weapon. Minus almost 7,000 total power. You may say, okay, probably her weapon because it's with attack, it just provides less total power. Let's go back to Mireille and put her weapon from Thomas. 38k plus. Now let's put her weapon back. 7,000 more. What does it mean? As we have all parameters like precision, level, advancements at the same level, but we have different stats like attack and defense, it actually means that hunters with a certain stat from which their scales off brings more impact. So I do believe this is actually applicable to artifacts as well. Let's say, for example, you have exactly the same artifacts, but enhancements are going to be different for the first artifact and for the second one. Let's say first one is going to be with 4 enhancements into additional defense. The second one is going to be with just exactly the same stats, but it's going to be with 4 enhancements into attack, additional attack. In this case, I believe for hunter switch scales of attack, they will get more benefit of it. That's another thing to keep in mind. Also, in terms of artifacts, I will stay here. I'm going to show you which stats are going to provide you the most amount of total power as well. And here is actually a weird one, quite honestly. Why? Because all of the useless stats, which we used to not really pay attention, they are actually providing the most amount of total power. Let me show you here. For example, I have 4 procs into damage reduction. From my perspective, it's a useless one, quite honestly, but we're going back to the main page of my support unit. She has 251k total power. Let me find any other support unit. I mean, at the same level of advancements, okay, let's say the weapon is a little bit below, but overall, he is also in the same set of Burning Blessing. And he has like, how many? 35k less total power than my Isla. Yeah, and this is pretty much the trick. So I have here damage reduction, some other stats, and yeah, this one they're providing actually the most amount. Which of them, to be more precise? So their damage reduction, MP consumption reduction, MP recovery rate, and from those which are actually useful, I should mention such as critical hit rate, critical hit damage. And also to keep in mind, additional stats, they providing more total power than percentages. So for example, additional attack is going to provide you more total power than attack percentage. The other thing to also keep in mind, if you have some kind of artifacts which have, like here in my example with Ayla, 4 procs in one stat, if you will have like another artifact just with exactly the same parameters, but there will be like 3 procs in one stat and 1 proc in another one, this one is going to give you less total power than this, as in my example with 4 procs in one parameter. I believe this is pretty much clear. Now, when we have dealt with the topic of total power, we'll talk now about the hunters and their best sets. Again, keep in mind that if you're lacking in total power, 8 pieces Curse, Grit, Burning Blessing is the way for you to go. But it doesn't really mean that this is the best set for your hunters. With all like improvements in terms of artifacts, there are way more ways to go right now. So we'll start with Mirai. She's the DPS which scales of attack, 4 pieces curse, 4 pieces outstanding ability. This is this one. For short-term battles, for long-term battles, we're talking about expert set. So let me select. These are the sets which fits the most. Also, in some cases, you may use also toughness. I still believe this is a good one set to actually use it. Pretty much useful. When we're going back to the stats which you want to really focus on, from top to bottom, from the most important to, let's say, still important but less than the first one. Additional attack, attack percentage, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, MP, additional MP, damage increase, defense penetration, and actually mana consumption reduction. This is an important one, especially for long-term battles, especially for the guild boss, because she runs out of mana real quick. The next one, Hunter. It's Wu, he's a breaker, and for him, pretty much obvious, 8 pieces grids is going to be the best set. So parameters which we are going to focus on is going to be additional defense, defense percentage, defense penetration, damage increase, critical hit rate, critical hit damage. Let's go to the next one, Ayla. Actually, with support units we have a little bit more variety in terms of artifacts. It really depends on the situation, but we will mention the best sets in terms of the most amount of content. And here we're talking, of course, about Burning Blessing set. For her, you want to focus on additional defense, defense percentage, damage increase, critical hit rate, probably critical hit damage as well, and yeah, that's pretty much it. She also has in her recommendations like damage reduction parameter. I didn't really get why, but yeah, I just put all artifacts with damage reduction which I had on her. Actually, this is a good one thing. If you're lacking again in terms of total power, if you have such sets which you think they're kinda useless, don't salvage them, save them. You can actually use them for some content where you exactly lacking the total power. This will be at some point really helpful. And for example, in my case, I was able to beat hard mode Baron with some kind of such tricks. So yeah, don't forget about it. Also, which sets you actually can use with her. The Sylph Blessing, for sure you can use it. You can use, it depends on the team. Angel in white. Mm, probably Guardian. Again, depends on the content. Noble Sacrifice. Outstanding Connection. That's pretty much it. Now let's go to the next hunter. This is going to be our boy Thomas Andre. Really great hunter, great DPS. I like him really, really much. So for him, the best sets are going to be 4 pieces Curse, 4 pieces Outstanding Ability. Also, you can use, just a second, you can use 4 pieces Warmonger, 4 pieces Outstanding Ability. Again, depends on the situation. Probably Guardian, you can use it, but I won't really recommend it. Actually, 4 pieces toughness works not that bad for him as well. I should do several tests on guild battle. I have a feeling that with toughness he can provide more damage, but we'll see. For the main stats which you can use with him, which you wanna use with him, is going to be additional defense, defense percentage, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, damage increase, defense penetration. Next one, let's talk about Alicia a little bit. So for her, pretty much the same situation as with Mirai. This is going to be 4 pieces Curse, 4 pieces Expert, or 4 pieces Outstanding Ability in a short-term battles. Actually, for parameters, they are going to be just the same as for Mirai, but here there are not that many situations where you want to really focus on her mana, so it's going to be somewhere in the bottom. Next one, Min, pretty much easy in terms of artifacts, the same as for Ayla, and actually all of the support units, they're going to use the same builds exactly, with a little bit of difference in terms of stats, and here we're focusing on HP percentage. In terms of total power, it gives less, but overall it provides more HP in general. So it's HP percentage, additional HP, critical hit rate. For him, critical hit damage is important because of his passives. He is going to provide certain amount of critical hit damage to the other hunters in your team. Emma is a breaker, so 8 pieces grid for her works great. In some content, you can use actually 4 pieces solid analysis. Yes. And for example, concentration of firepower to decrease the cooldown of your skills. For her, main parameters are going to be HP percentage, additional HP, defense penetration. Gun He, another big boy and old man, but the best breaker in this game. Pretty much Harper actually more or less on the same level, maybe even a little bit higher, but overall Ganhi is a universal unit, so I like him a lot as well. For him, here it's a little bit different. Why? Because he actually provides a certain amount of damage. He deals damage, which is not like really specific for breakers, but he is good in this case. So I'm using with him 4 pieces grid and 4 pieces outstanding ability. Parameters are going to be just exactly the same as for Thomas Andrea. It's additional defense, defense percentage, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, damage increase, defense penetration. That's pretty much it. Now let's go to Charlotte. And she is another DPS, which scales of defense the same as Thomas. Sets are going to be the same as for Thomas. Recommendations the same as for Thomas. Now we'll go to Harper. She's a breaker, and again 8 pieces grid. In terms of scaling, she scales of HP, so percentage HP, additional HP, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, damage increase, defense penetration. Maylin Fisher, she's a support unit, so for her you wanna go with 8 pieces blessing or any other variations which I have provided you before. And for her main stats you're going to use again HP, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, just to boost overall. Let me see here real quick. Yeah, also because she's a healer, you can actually use boots, for example, with healing, but I won't really recommend. It's not really that important. For Libora, this one actually can be used in different ways. She can be a DPS, she can be a support unit. So it really depends on your goal, how you want to use her. You can actually bring her in 8 pieces blessing, you can bring her in 8 pieces curse, you can combine different options and variations because for her critical hit rate is really important. So yeah, she scales off attack, again, additional attack, attack percentages, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, and for her actually overcrit is really important because of her summons. They at some point they are losing um, certain amount of critical hit rate. I don't know how it's going to be divided, probably between 3 of them, so it's not like 50% but less. In this case, that's why we're using like overcrit for her. Now we're going to Cha, our lovely girl, and for her, she is attack-based DPS, so these are going to be the same artifacts as for Mirai. For her, MP is important. She runs out of MP really fast, faster than Mirai. That's why for her, MP management is also important. Sets the same as for Mirai, stats the same as for Mirai. Nothing new here. Now Hansemi, for her sets just the same as for other support units, 8 pieces blessing, she scales of HP, again, HP percentage, additional HP, critical hit rate, that's pretty much it. Also, on a guild battle I actually use her with 4 pieces Guardian and 4 pieces Concentration of Firepower. In this case she runs out of mana real quick, that's why in terms of guild battle her MP management is really important as well. Now we'll go further to Yusuhyun. She's attack-based DPS, but she actually scales more of defense penetration. So I would say additional attack, percentage attack, they are still on a high level, but the next one, important one, is going to be defense penetration for sure, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, obviously, and damage increase. We're going next to Gina. She's a support unit, so 8 pieces blessing or any other sets which I mentioned before. She scales off attack, so for her the main parameters are going to be additional attack, attack percentage, and also for defense penetration, it's actually applicable for all fire element hunters. They all scales well of defense penetration. It's a strange parameter at some point. It's important on long-term activities, especially for guild boss, but overall, eh, I mean, a little bit weird. Ah, Dongsu, this is actually a strange one. I don't really use him, but he goes here as a DPS, so these are actually recommended sets for him. I would say, yeah, he removes shields. He maybe deals some damage, but overall not really playable hunter. So there is actually nothing to talk about him. I'm sorry about this, but that's the reality for now. For Choi, at some point you can use him as a universal unit for real. You can use him with Blessing set as a support unit. You can use him with Curse set as a DPS at some point. In terms of damage output, he is below than the other DPS units because he can't crit, and this is a huge disadvantage for him. That's why, for example, on guild battles, I'm using him completely as a support unit, and he scales of attack, so additional attack percentage, and also defense penetration. So JEJU, and for her, she's a breaker, so 8 pieces grid set. Again, she scales of HP percentage, additional HP, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, def penetration. Lim, he's a breaker. So for him, it's actually 8 pieces grid. He scales of attack. So here you're looking for additional attack and attack percentage as main stats. And you want to increase him damage increase as well. Critical hit rate, critical hit damage. For back Yunho, he's a breaker, 8 pieces grid. And he scales of defense, so you're looking again for additional defense percentage, critical hit rate, critical hit damage, defense penetration, damage increase. They're pretty much the same for all hunters overall. Here, Silvermane, he's actually a little bit different. He is a DPS. He also scales of attack. So for him, ideal build is going to be a little bit different. You're going to use him ideally with 4 pieces curse set and 4 pieces berserker. Why berserker? Because he loses a certain amount of HP. This set of accessories is going to provide you the most benefit. Overall, he was buffed really well. He actually can show some decent results right now. For best sets and stats for your SSR hunters, that's pretty much it. Overall, we discussed the topic of the total power, specifically talked about scaling of different stats, how they're important in terms of total power. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also, did you find something new or interesting? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for your attention. Have a nice day and see you guys in the next one. Bye.